This is Michael Popok of Legal AF. We've got some breaking news on the Donald Trump Mar-a-Lago front. His attorney, M. Evan Corcoran, has been ordered by the Chief Judge of the D.C. Circuit Court to testify and drop his attorney-client privilege protection to not tell the grand jury about conversations he had with Donald Trump. The Department of Justice was successful in convincing Chief Judge Beryl Howell on the last day of her 7-year term as Chief Judge to strip away the attorney-client privilege, arguing successfully, apparently, that Mr. Corcoran and Donald Trump were involved in a crime or fraud, which would trigger the crime-fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege, which means that the lawyer has to drop the privilege and testify without its protection to the grand jury. This all in a secret hearing, as all of these hearings are secret because they involve the grand jury, whose work and process is protected by secrecy until they are done with their work. Now, this is one of at least 3 grand juries that are impaneled and are in place that Jack Smith and his prosecutors are working diligently in front of. One we know is looking at Mar-a-Lago. We'll talk more about that in this hot take. The other 2, one is working on the grift of Donald Trump and all of the money that he tried to raise on the false claim that the election was stolen. And then the third is his role, Donald Trump's role in the Jan 6 insurrection and fomenting it and causing that chaotic day and stain on our history. Let's go back to M. Evan Corcoran. There's also reporting, at least through the Daily Beast, because we're piecing this together because it is secret and the lawyers aren't really talking much, that there was an unusual occurrence, which was another win, a coup for the Department of Justice against Donald Trump. The first time, apparently, that not only was the lawyer for Donald Trump, in this case Corcoran, ordered to reappear in front of the grand jury and testify, but that his notes, the notes that every lawyer like me and others take when they're doing interviews or having conversations with their client, those notes have been turned over directly, at least according to the Daily Beast reporting, to the Department of Justice. The process apparently that was used is that Judge Beryl Howell took those notes into her personal review, her private confidential review. We call it in the business an in-camera review. All it means, it's Latin, all it means is that she's looking at this privately, not on the court docket, not with anybody else's prying eyes, and making a determination, having read the notes, here's an artistic rendering of what notes would look like, that yes, indeed, it established the crime fraud exception to drop the attorney-client privilege and force Corcoran to testify. That the reporting is that she turned those notes directly from her in-camera review over to the Department of Justice, as opposed to ordering the Trump lawyers and compel them to turn those notes over. She already had possession of the notes because they were in her in-camera review. This happens a lot with confidential or business records where you want the judge to make a determination before the other side sees it. Now, some of the reporting is making a big deal out of the fact that she didn't order Trump's lawyers to turn over the documents, but rather she apparently may have turned the documents over directly from her in-camera review. That's not that unusual. It does eliminate for Donald Trump, if true, it does eliminate an ability to appeal an order related to the turnover because she cut out that step and gave the documents directly to the Department of Justice. We will watch that more closely. If that's the case, it's the first time that we've heard that the chief judge that supervises all the grand juries, who is on the last day, Beryl Howell, and starting tomorrow, Jeb Boasberg, for a new 7-year term, that she had ordered and got possession of notes and directly turned them over to the Department of Justice, perhaps because she doesn't trust the Trump lawyers, and that's probably a good thing. Why Evan Corcoran? Let's turn to that. What's his role in all of this? Well, you may recall that Evan Corcoran was the lead lawyer who was advising Donald Trump and interacting with the Department of Justice and all of its personnel about the turnover of the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. He was the ringleader, the puppet master, working with Donald Trump closely in fending off the Department of Justice's attempts to get the documents voluntarily through a request through the National Archive. When that failed, through a subpoena and a subpoena process. And when the Department of Justice got the distinct impression from interacting with Evan Corcoran and his team, including Christina Bobb, that they were not in good faith working with the Department of Justice to turn over documents, that the Department of Justice had other cooperating witnesses telling them that boxes were being moved in and out of the supposed locked room in Mar-a-Lago while negotiations with the Department of Justice were going on, that's when they went to the magistrate and on August 8th executed a search warrant, then that last level of we don't trust you at all to comply with a subpoena or voluntary request. After a year and a half, we're going to go get the documents ourselves. Evan Corcoran and the focus apparently that was present in the courtroom in front of Judge Howell this past week was on a phone call, a June 24th of last year phone call. Why is that date important? Well, one, it involved Evan Corcoran and Donald Trump, and the Department of Justice knows it. So they either have a recording of it or they have witness testimony and other documents, including phone records that indicate that that call happened. That is the exact same day that the Department of Justice demanded from Donald Trump and his lawyers the video surveillance footage for the camera out in front of the locked or allegedly locked locker or room at Mar-a-Lago where the classified documents were represented to be had. Department of Justice had inside information from cooperating witnesses that door was open and that people were seen moving boxes in and out of that during the Department of Justice negotiations. When Evan Corcoran was representing that there was no movement, the documents were secure, they were status quo. And so the Department of Justice believed that was a lie. And then when they requested the video to prove it, which ultimately did prove it, that those boxes were being moved around by Donald Trump as he was playing a shell game with the Department of Justice, that has been one of the focuses against Evan Corcoran and why we believe he's not only a witness in the Mar-a-Lago investigation, but is a potential target as a criminal defendant in it as well.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Look, everyone knows how annoying cheap razors are. The cuts, the irritation, the frustration. And don't get me started with subscription razor services, the headaches that those can cause. That's why you gotta meet Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the ISS. That's the International Space Station and Mars rover. And now they're bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. Razor blades, they're like diving boards. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, and scrapes. A bad shave, it isn't a blade problem. It's an extension problem. By using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of human hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. It gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. Seriously, Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edge blades to give you that old-school shave with the benefits of new-school tech. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only about $3 to $5 per year to replace the blades. My first shave with the Henson razor was incredibly refreshing. The design is sleek and the durability is top-notch. The Henson razor is truly so much better than your run-of-the-mill quote-unquote traditional razor brand. And the affordability factor is absolutely game-changing. No more wasting your money on expensive blades. With Henson Shaving, you can get a year of blades for just $5. Okay, so this is what you have to do. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/legalaf to pick up the razor for you and use our code LEGALAF and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/legalaf and use code LEGALAF. And now back to the video.
Evan Corcoran also is the person who supervised his colleague, Christina Bobb, and forced her, or recommended to her, that she sign a declaration under oath, right, to the Department of Justice, telling them that the 38 classified documents in the sealed envelope represented the entire universe of documents that were classified that had, or top secret, that hadn't been turned over for with Donald Trump. That we know now is a lie. The Department of Justice knows that's a lie, because when they executed the search warrant, they got over 100 more that were inside of Mar-a-Lago in one place or another. Evan Corcoran had Christina Bobb, who now has her own attorney, who's also testified before the grand jury already on these issues, had her sign that declaration. That is a crime, to lie to the U.S. government, to the Department of Justice, to the FBI. That's one lie. The second lie that they are looking into involving Evan Corcoran, and why he's in hot water himself, is because he met with the head of the counterintelligence division of the Department of Justice while they were, quote unquote, negotiating the return of the documents before the search warrant. And Evan Corcoran represented that everything was behind this locked door at Mar-a-Lago and there was no movement of documents. When the counterintelligence head wanted to see it, Jim Battle, Corcoran fended him off, gave him a stiff arm, wouldn't let him into the room. And then the Department of Justice, between the video surveillance evidence and other testimony of Mar-a-Lago employees who have now been subpoenaed by the Department of Justice, know that, for instance, Walt Nauta, N-A-U-T-A, who is Trump's valet or body man, is on video moving boxes out of Mar-a-Lago's locked room, allegedly, while Evan Corcoran is representing that the documents are secure in the room while they continue to negotiate the return of the top secret documents. That, again, is a crime, to lie, Evan Corcoran, to the counterintelligence division head about the security or the sanctity of the documents, that they're inviolate when they're not. That is another crime. This is why Evan Corcoran is such a key witness here, and why the Judge Beryl Howell decision on her last day to force him to testify, drop his attorney-client privilege, and allegedly, or as we know right now, maybe turn over the notes directly, his attorney notes directly to the Department of Justice, is a major development and a major win for the Department of Justice in their fight against Donald Trump and all of his lawyers. Let's remember, Christina Bobb has already gone in, who worked under Evan Corcoran, and signed that now notorious declaration, false declaration about what was in the box, what was in the envelope of classified documents. Alina Habba, the most radioactive lawyer so far in the Trump inner circle, when she's not getting sanctioned for $1 million down in Florida for meritless and bad faith filings on behalf of Donald Trump, she's in Mar-a-Lago searching through desk drawers because they've got another problem in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case about documents. And so she's smack dab in the middle, wrong time, wrong place, looking in boxes and drawers and signing declarations about her search at the very same time as an overlay. The Department of Justice is trying to get classified and top secret documents out of those very same drawers and desks. So you got Alina Habba that's gone in to testify before the grand jury. And so this is just another in a long list of lawyers who get themselves in trouble because they forget their role, that they're supposed to be representatives and counselors and attorneys at law. They're not supposed to put themselves as fact witnesses and ultimately co-conspirators with their client. Now, Donald Trump's already come out, of course, and attacked the attempt and says he's going to appeal the attempt to have Evan Corcoran testify without the protection of the attorney-client privilege, again, before the grand jury. He'll probably take some sort of emergency appeal. So far, those have been dead on arrival losers for Donald Trump when he tries to take it to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals or even up to the Supreme Court on these issues about the application of the crime fraud exception and attorney-client privilege. Now, Evan Corcoran has one last privilege he can assert. He could still try to assert the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, because if he really is a target and all of the potential crimes that I've laid out on this hot take are true, he's got his own personal liberty and criminal jeopardy problem. But so far, he hasn't asserted the Fifth Amendment privilege, or at least we haven't heard he has. What would happen then is he would go back in front of now the new chief judge who starts today, Chief Judge Jeb Boasberg, taking over from Beryl Howell, who is a Obama appointee, a Democratic appointee, and argue that he's got a Fifth Amendment privilege, and then the judge would probably compel the Department of Justice, if they want that testimony, to give Evan Corcoran immunity to allow him to testify. So we're going to have to watch this and see what the next chess move is with Evan Corcoran and the Department of Justice now that the Department of Justice has gotten this grand slam win on the final day of Beryl Howell's tenure as chief judge. We cover matters like this on a podcast called Legal AF every Wednesdays and Saturdays. I do hot takes like this at the intersection of law and politics about once a day in real time. If you like what we're doing, follow us on the MeidasTouch network and follow the Legal AF on Saturdays and Wednesdays. And if you like this kind of hot take from me, you can follow me on social media at MS Popok. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, reporting.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.